Over the years, I've struggled with depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and self-harm. Initially, when I started to sort of get worse and my functionality dropped and I started to withdraw, I wanted to fix myself on my own. I thought I was strong enough. I thought I could get through it. I didn't really believe that mental health or mental illness really existed. I thought that it wasn't me. But obviously I was wrong, and I was getting worse and worse and worse. Eventually I realized that regardless of how I wanted to feel about mental health, the reality was a bit different. I wasn't coping. My lack of ability to cope forced me to seek help because it proved to me unequivocally that, I wasn't dealing with it. If I couldn't hold the two thoughts in my mind that I was self-harming or I was feeling suicidal or I wanted to stay in bed all day, with the thought that I could deal with this, with the thought that I was dealing with it. I couldn't rectify the idea that I couldn't go to work because I couldn't handle it with the idea that I was able to handle the mental health stuff going on in my life. Those two things didn't gel. So then the idea of, well, what do I do came to mind. How do I actually address this? My first stop was to deal with the embarrassment of admitting to myself that I needed to seek help. That's a tough one because admitting weakness, even to yourself, it's hard to do because you have to change your perception of yourself. However, I got so bad that I had no other option. It was admit that I needed help or risk killing myself. That's not that's not a battle you can win. So once I acknowledged that I needed help, I sought the assistance of my doctor. My doctor promptly sent me off to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist prescribed me an antidepressant. This antidepressant worked in the sense that it stopped the suicidal thoughts. It prevented those low lows, but unfortunately it also took away the highs of my life. It put my functioning into this middle band. It made me feel that I was no longer depressed, but I could no longer feel much joy. My motivation dropped, my desire dropped, and I was sort of living in this middle band of not depressed, but not happy, just existing. As you could imagine, that's not the best idea or the best solution either. It sort of made me feel like, well, what's the point of living if I can't experience the good sides? So I stupidly decided to cut the antidepressants cold turkey. And this led to withdrawal symptoms, cold sweats and muscle pain and a bunch of other stuff. But for a while there, my mental state remained the same. I thought I was lucky enough to, have kicked my brain back into gear and that I'd be fine. But unsurprisingly, it didn't last. My mental state progressively started to deteriorate back to where I was, and the suicidal thoughts came back, the self-harming came back. I started to turn to alcohol to sort of cope with my mental state. And once again, I had to acknowledge to myself, well, you're not coping. So I went back to the doctor and suggested to the doctor that medicine isn't for me. I need something else alongside it. And I was actually annoyed that I wasn't given practical advice on how to change my state. Being given medication works, and it helps some people perfectly. That's all they need. But for me and for many other people, we need more. We need a solution that we can implement in our day-to-day lives. We need to be able to talk our problems through. Because, a lot of depression and rumination is this just thoughts going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in your mind. And without someone or some way to sort of cut those thoughts, to offload them, to let them go, they're still going to be there no matter what medication you're taking. The underlying problem's still there. So from there I went on to seek the assistance of a bunch of different psychologists. And the first few that I saw just weren't for me. I just didn't connect to them. And I was tempted to sort of give up on the idea of psychology and psychotherapy in general because, they gave me that cliche advice that you see, on media and TV, and they just weren't hitting the mark. But I realized that, just like every other profession, psychologists are people too. And some people you get along with, some people you gel with and connect with and hit it off, and other people you just don't. So I persevered until I found a psychologist that worked, that helped me. This psychologist not only listens, but also gives me practical things that I can do in the moment and in the long term to help me through the worst of it. But how do I know it's working? Well, I know it's working because I can look at my functionality in my day-to-day life. I haven't self-harmed for years. I am a lot more functional when it comes to working and with life in general. I'm getting my shit together, so to speak. I'm not feeling as depressed or as anxious, and when I do feel those things, they don't last as long. So I'm judging the efficacy of my psychologist's actions by my ability to cope in life. That being said, if my ability starts to fall and my psychologist is no longer helping me, I would obviously move on. I've done it in the past. I was getting help from one, and then the help started to drop away, so I moved, and that's fine, because I need to look after myself. With all this in mind, I can't emphasize the importance enough of, if you're struggling, for you to seek help, because there's help out there. And I know from personal experience that it might not feel like someone else could possibly know your experiences. I felt this myself. How could somebody possibly know what I've gone through? How could they possibly relate to me? I suffered sexual abuse growing up. I lived in when I was at my dad's house, he was a drug addict and drug dealer. So we had people that were pinging on things coming over to the house, and it just wasn't a safe environment. I never felt calm or the ability to relax there because there was always this ever-present risk of someone coming into the house. Now, I can talk about this and share it with you, but there's obviously a lot of stuff that's sort of sitting there in the back of my mind going, well, no matter how much I share, how can you possibly know? And therefore, how could a psychologist possibly help? But what I found important to be aware of is that it's their job. It's what they've trained to do. And if you find yourself a good psychologist, one that's dealt with the issues that you've gone through, they might not know your personal problems, but the more you open up, the more you share, the more you talk, the more they'll get to understand. They will learn, and you will learn to be able to open up. And when those two things come together, they'll be able to provide a bunch of solutions that could possibly work. Some of them won't, some of them will. But the ones that work, you stick to. You keep working on, you keep pushing, and they'll help. So like I've said, if you're struggling, give it a try. I mean, what else have you got? What other option do you have? For me, it was just continue to progress down into a lack of functionality and eventual suicide, self-harm, depression, or give it a try. What other option is there? If you're struggling, reach out and seek support. If the concept of speaking to someone one-on-one, face-to-face is challenging, I get that. There's a few other options that you could try. The first one could be text-based support online. Just Google online anonymous support, and you'll find a bunch of resources and places and websites that you can have a text-based conversation with a trained professional who will help you through your problems. They don't know you, you don't know them. It's text-based, so it's not face-to-face, and you can end the conversation at any time. This is a useful resource. Another thing that I found tremendously helpful for me was writing therapy. I would write down my thoughts on a page and just put it from here onto the page, not look at it again, not even reread it, just get it out. The page is a really good form of therapy because it just listens. It doesn't judge. It doesn't care what you write on it. But what you write isn't important. It's the act of writing that matters. The act of speaking, the act of letting go, the act of confession. Give it a try. Don't judge yourself. Don't reread it. Don't look at it, and you don't throw it out afterwards. The point is getting it down onto the page and writing. Regardless, though, if you need support, reach out and seek support. Talk to someone in your life. Contact me. DM me. I'm happy to listen. Okay, but all I can suggest is that if you're struggling, talk. And this isn't only if you're struggling yourself with your own problems, but if you're helping someone, if you're supporting someone else, reach out and seek support, not only to help you help them, but also help you help yourself, because the added stress of helping someone else will add stress to your life, and that might be something you need to talk about. So reach out and seek assistance. And just once again, another Google. If you've got a child that's suicidal, Google that. If you've got a partner that's an alcoholic, Google how to help a partner that's alcoholic, and there'll be resources out there that will help and support you. Seek assistance. If you're not coping, it means that you're not coping, and therefore it means that you can seek help. It means that you should seek help. And rest assured that there are other people out there that have tried to push through, haven't been able to do it, and then they've sought help and they've gotten that help from other people, and they've been able to deal with it better since then. Stop battling on your own. Reach out, talk, and get that assistance, because once you do, you'll see that, a weight will be lifted off your shoulders, you'll see hope, and you'll start to recover. And trust me, it's worth it. It's worth getting better. Thanks for listening, guys. If you got something out of this video, please show me your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing. And also, if you know someone that would benefit from listening to this, send it off to them. Not only are they getting the benefits of what's inside, but also you're letting them know that you're someone that they can come to should they need help. You're someone that's not going to judge them for the stigma around mental health. You're someone that will be supportive and be a lending ear should they need it. So if you know someone that would benefit from checking this video out, private message them. Tell them about it and just let them know that you're someone that they can come to for support. They might not need it, but it also might be in the back of their minds that someone's caring, and they could come to you when the shit really hits the fan. And I know from personal experience that I would want someone to come to me before they do something that they can't take back. So if you know someone that's struggling, reach out to them. Share this video or share any resources that you can think of, because it might be the thing that helps save their lives. And I don't mean to really sort of bring it down that path, but I've just looked into the stats of mental health and mental illness, and a lot of people are suffering, but not many people are talking about it. And that gap will cause a lot of needless suffering that we can all help to end by talking about it, by sharing videos like this, by opening up and just discussing mental health concerns. And so with that in mind, I also want to encourage you to click the link below this video. It's to my podcast, the Reality Check podcast, and I've uploaded an episode that goes into a bit more depth about this topic. It's called The Importance of Seeking Help, and it's available via my website at zachary-phillips.com or on iTunes, Stitcher, and a bunch of other places that you can listen to podcasts. So check it out, click the link or search Reality Check Podcast by Zachary Phillips, and you'll be able to find it. It goes into a lot more depth, and on my podcast you'll see a bunch of different episodes where I share my experience with mental health and recovery and a bunch of other stuff there. So check it out, and yeah, thank you.